Alien girl guides human through a sealed vault, revealing a mural painted with human. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, back to our main character. Jack Miller had been walking for hours, his boots clicking against the smooth stone floor of the sealed vault beneath the alien city. The walls around him were lined with strange carvings, symbols he couldn't quite decipher. It was as if the very stone was alive, whispering tales of ancient civilizations and secrets long forgotten. His guide, Zara, a striking figure with iridescent blue skin and eyes that seemed to reflect the cosmos itself, led him through the labyrinth of tunnels. Her movements were graceful, almost ethereal, as she effortlessly navigated the maze, her silver hair glistening under the faint light that emanated from the walls. Jack couldn't help but admire her poise, despite the unease that lingered in his chest. The vault had been sealed for centuries, its purpose a mystery to everyone who had come across it. Jack's mission was clear: explore, document, and report back. But as he followed Zara deeper into the chamber, he couldn't shake the feeling that this place was more than just an ancient ruin. It felt alive, as though it held memories not just of the past, but of things still waiting to unfold. Zara paused at a large stone door, its surface covered in intricate markings that seemed to shimmer as she approached. She turned to Jack, her golden eyes meeting his with a curious intensity. "What do you think of it?" she asked, her voice soft, yet carrying a weight that made him pause. Jack took a moment, scanning the door's surface. It was unlike anything he had seen before. The markings were not just decorative, they seemed to move, like fluid patterns shifting in response to his gaze. "I've never seen anything like it," Jack said, his voice laced with awe. "What does it mean?" Zara smiled, her lips curving into a gentle expression. "It's a history," she replied. "A history that includes you." Jack's brow furrowed in confusion. "Me?" Zara nodded. "You may not realize it, but humans are part of this history. You're not just visitors to our world, you are woven into its very fabric." Jack stared at her, trying to make sense of her words. What could she mean by that? Before he could ask, Zara placed her hand on the door, and with a soft hum, it slowly began to open. The chamber beyond was bathed in a soft, amber glow, and as they stepped inside, Jack's eyes were drawn to the far wall. There, painted across the entire surface, was a mural. The figures in the mural were a mix of humanoid beings, some familiar, others entirely alien, intertwined in a dance that spanned centuries. But what struck Jack most was the central figure. It was unmistakably human, a man with the same features as him, standing tall among the other beings. The mural depicted a story Jack couldn't understand, but somehow, it felt familiar. Zara stepped forward, her gaze lingering on the mural. "This is the history of the Human Race Alliance," she said, her voice tinged with reverence. "You have always been a part of our world, even if you didn't know it." Jack swallowed hard, his heart racing. He had never heard of such a thing. He was a simple archaeologist, nothing more. Yet here he stood, in front of a mural that seemed to suggest humanity had a far deeper connection to the stars than he had ever imagined. Zara turned to him, her gaze soft but knowing. "The question now is," she said quietly, "what will you do with this knowledge?" Jack didn't know how to answer. All he could do was stare at the mural, feeling both small and incredibly significant at the same time. This discovery, this moment, was bigger than anything he had ever hoped to find. And somehow, he knew that it was only the beginning. Jack stood there, transfixed by the mural. It wasn't just a painting, it was a story. A story written in strokes of vibrant color, capturing a history he had never known. The figures in the mural danced in a cosmic embrace, their forms moving together as if bound by an unspoken connection. Human and alien alike, united in ways Jack couldn't quite comprehend. The figure at the center, his own likeness, stood tall among them, exuding strength and purpose. But it wasn't just his image that captivated him. It was the way the other beings around him seemed to look to him, as if his presence was vital to their existence. Zara stood beside him, her golden eyes focused on the artwork. She didn't speak at first, allowing Jack to take it all in. He could feel the weight of her gaze, like she was waiting for him to understand something she already knew. "What does this mean?" Jack asked, his voice barely a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the significance of the moment. Zara turned to him, her lips curling into a soft, knowing smile. "It means you have always been a part of this story, Jack," she said gently. "Your kind has shaped the fate of many worlds, though you may not realize it." Jack felt his chest tighten. "I don't understand. I'm just an archaeologist. I've never done anything of that magnitude." Zara's smile softened, and she placed a hand on his shoulder, the touch surprisingly warm. "You may not know it, but your kind's journey has always been intertwined with the stars. The history you see here is not just an ancient tale, it's a prophecy, a reminder that humans have always had a role to play in the cosmos. You, Jack, are a part of something much bigger than you could ever imagine." Jack stood still, his mind racing to keep up with Zara's words. A prophecy? A part of something bigger? He had spent his life studying ancient civilizations, unearthing the secrets of forgotten worlds, but never had he stumbled upon anything like this. His heart pounded in his chest, a mixture of excitement and confusion swirling within him. Zara's gaze softened as she continued. "The mural tells the story of a time when humans and aliens were not so divided, when we worked together to shape the galaxy. But over time, things changed. Divisions grew, and the connection between our kinds faded. This mural is a reminder of that lost unity, and perhaps, the key to rekindling it." Jack took a step forward, his hand reaching out to touch the cool surface of the wall. His fingers grazed the vibrant colors, feeling the texture of the ancient paint beneath his touch. It was as if the mural itself held a message for him, something he couldn't quite decipher but knew he needed to understand. Zara watched him closely, her eyes full of quiet understanding. "You are the bridge, Jack," she said softly. "You are the one who can bring us back together." Jack pulled his hand away, his mind reeling. "I don't know how I could possibly do that. I'm just one man." Zara's smile widened, a hint of pride in her gaze. "One man can change the course of history, Jack. You've already started by finding this place. The rest will unfold as you move forward." Jack looked back at the mural, the figures still dancing in their cosmic embrace. He had no idea what was coming next, but he knew one thing for certain: his life, and the fate of many others, had just changed forever. Jack's mind was spinning as he tried to process everything Zara had told him. The weight of the mural's meaning settled heavily on his shoulders. He had always considered himself a man of facts, someone who lived in the realm of history, artifacts, and evidence. But standing in the vault, surrounded by a story older than anything he could comprehend, he realized that this was no ordinary discovery. Zara's words echoed in his mind, *, "You are the bridge, Jack." What could that possibly mean? He glanced at Zara, who stood a few steps away, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp, as if waiting for him to catch up. The chamber around them seemed to grow quieter, more still, as if the very air was holding its breath, waiting for Jack to take the next step. The rest will unfold as you move forward. The thought hung in his mind, but it only deepened his confusion. How could he, one person, bring about such a monumental change? "What do we do now?" Jack finally asked, breaking the silence. Zara's gaze softened, and she stepped closer, her presence calming yet intense. "Now, we begin," she said, her voice steady and reassuring. "You will need to learn about the history behind this place and its connection to your people." Jack nodded, though he still felt like he was grasping at shadows. He had never expected a trip to an alien world to lead him down this path. His mission had been simple: explore the unknown, document the ancient ruins, and return with answers. But now, it felt like he had stumbled into something much bigger than just an archaeological find. "How do I learn about it?" Jack asked, his voice tinged with doubt. Zara smiled, the corner of her lips curling with a hint of mischief. You start by understanding your own history, Jack. The answers are not just in the ruins. They are within you. Jack looked at her, still unsure of what she meant. Zara gestured toward the vault's exit, leading him back toward the winding tunnels they had come through. We will go to a place where humans and aliens have interacted for centuries. There, you will see for yourself. They made their way through the narrow, dimly lit corridors of the vault, the walls now seeming less mysterious and more like old friends whispering secrets in a language Jack could almost understand. As they exited the vault and entered the open air, Jack could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him. Zara led him toward a sleek, metallic transport vehicle parked just outside the vault entrance. The city around them was a bustling mix of alien architecture, the air filled with the hum of machinery and the chatter of beings from different worlds. Jack had seen many alien cities in his time, but this one felt different. The energy was palpable, like the very ground beneath him was vibrating with purpose. Where are we going? Jack asked as they climbed into the transport. Zara settled beside him, her expression thoughtful. To the heart of this world's knowledge. The Library of the Stars. Jack blinked in surprise. He had heard rumors of such places, legendary repositories of information that spanned galaxies, containing knowledge that could change the course of entire civilizations. I didn't realize it was so close, he said. Zara nodded, her gaze distant as she looked out at the skyline. This place is ancient, Jack. The knowledge contained within it is more than just information, it's a living record of our shared history. Humans, aliens, all of us. It's where you will find the answers you seek. The transport sped through the city, its smooth glide a stark contrast to the chaotic energy of the streets. Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Here he was, on the brink of something far greater than anything he had ever imagined. As the transport approached a towering structure that seemed to stretch into the sky, Jack realized that this was only the beginning. The answers were out there, waiting for him, and he would have to embrace the unknown to uncover them. The transport came to a smooth stop in front of a monumental structure, a towering edifice that seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky, its metallic surface shimmering in the light of the alien sun. Jack stepped out, his feet landing softly on the ground, and for a moment, he simply stood there, taking in the sight. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, an architectural marvel, both alien and familiar, a symbol of knowledge and power. Zara stood beside him, her gaze steady, her posture relaxed but filled with purpose. This is the Library of the Stars, she said, her voice calm, almost reverential. Here you will find everything you need to understand the path ahead. Jack nodded, still overwhelmed by the scale of the place. He had heard of legendary repositories of knowledge before, but seeing one with his own eyes was something else entirely. The building seemed to hum with an energy that was both inviting and intimidating, as if it were alive, breathing, waiting to reveal its secrets. Zara led the way, her steps sure and graceful. Jack followed, his mind racing with questions. What was this place really? How could it hold the answers to so many mysteries, including his own role in this cosmic tapestry? As they entered the vast hall, Jack was struck by the quiet grandeur of the library. Rows upon rows of shelves, filled with glowing data crystals and ancient texts, stretched out before him. The air was cool, thick with the scent of old parchment and the hum of advanced technology. It was a place where the past and future coexisted, where knowledge from countless worlds was preserved and shared. Zara guided him deeper into the heart of the library, past alcoves and holographic displays that showcased the galaxy's most significant historical events. She stopped in front of a massive archive terminal, its interface glowing with a soft blue light. This, Zara said, is where you will begin. Jack approached the terminal, his fingers hovering over the controls. He had expected something more traditional, but this device seemed to pulse with an energy of its own, as if it were waiting for him to make the first move. He took a deep breath and touched the interface. Instantly, a series of images and data streams appeared before him, projected in midair, floating like translucent holograms. He saw images of distant worlds, ancient alien civilizations, and, shockingly, human figures woven into the tapestry of history. Some were familiar, others strange, but all of them had one thing in common: they were part of something much bigger than themselves. Jack felt a rush of realization flood over him. This was what Zara had meant: the humans were not just passive observers of the universe, they were integral to its unfolding. "What am I seeing?" Jack asked, his voice a mix of awe and disbelief. Zara stood beside him, her eyes focused on the images, her expression thoughtful. "You're seeing the past," she said. "The connection between your people and the galaxy. You've been a part of this story for far longer than you know." Jack's heart raced as the images shifted, showing humans interacting with alien species, guiding them through wars, and sharing knowledge that shaped entire civilizations. It was overwhelming, but it also felt oddly familiar, as if he had always known this truth deep down. "This is impossible," Jack murmured. "How could we have been involved in all of this?" Zara's gaze softened. "You don't realize the power of your species, Jack. Humanity has always had the ability to shape the galaxy. Your curiosity, your drive to explore, to understand, these are the traits that make you essential to the future of all life in the universe." Jack felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of pride and fear. He had always thought of himself as just one man, one archaeologist. But here, in this vast library, he was beginning to see that his life, and the lives of every human, were connected to something far greater than he could have ever imagined. "What do I do now?" he asked, his voice low, uncertain. Zara placed a hand on his shoulder, her grip firm yet reassuring. "Now, you understand your purpose. Now, you move forward. The next steps will be yours to take." Jack looked back at the projections, the swirling images of history, and for the first time, he felt a sense of clarity. He wasn't just a witness to history, he was a part of it. A part of something that spanned the stars, that shaped the future of the galaxy. And with that realization, the weight of his journey began to settle on him. This was only the beginning. As Jack absorbed the information on the terminal, the full weight of Zara's words began to sink in. He was part of a much larger picture, one that spanned galaxies, cultures, and civilizations. The connection between humanity and the universe was far deeper than he had ever imagined. For the first time, he understood that his curiosity, his drive to explore, wasn't just personal, it was essential to the future of all life. But what now? What was he supposed to do with this knowledge? The quiet hum of the terminal seemed to echo in his mind, a constant reminder that the answers were right in front of him. He glanced at Zara, who was watching him intently, as if she already knew the question swirling in his head. "What happens next?" Jack asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Zara stood beside him, her expression calm but determined. "Now that you understand your place in this, the real journey begins," she said softly. "The mural and the knowledge within this library aren't just history. They're a roadmap. A guide for you and for humanity. The galaxy is at a crossroads, Jack. You're here to help us navigate it." Jack's mind raced. A crossroads? It all sounded so grand, so much larger than he had ever considered. He had never thought of himself as a hero, never imagined that his work as an archaeologist would lead to anything more than the discovery of ancient relics. But now, standing in this vast repository of knowledge, surrounded by evidence of humanity's role in the galaxy's history, he couldn't deny that something bigger was at play. "So, what's the first step?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara's gaze softened as she looked at him, her eyes filled with a quiet wisdom. "The first step is understanding that this is just the beginning. You must return to Earth, Jack. There, you'll find the next piece of the puzzle. The next part of the story is waiting for you." Jack felt a jolt of surprise. "Earth," he repeated. "But how? What am I supposed to do once I get there?" Zara smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes. "You'll know what to do when the time comes. Trust yourself. And trust the people who will stand by your side. You won't be alone in this." Jack stared at her, still trying to piece everything together. His mind was still spinning with everything he had just learned. He had come to this alien world with a simple mission, to explore and document. But now, it seemed his purpose had shifted, and the weight of that responsibility felt almost too much to bear. But Zara's words were comforting. He wasn't alone in this. He had a role to play, and that was something he would have to accept. As they made their way back toward the transport, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that his life had changed forever. The world he had known, the world of research, of ancient ruins and quiet study, had been replaced with something much larger, something far more important. And as the transport lifted off and the alien city receded below him, Jack knew that his journey had only just begun. The journey back to Earth felt different for Jack. As the transport glided silently through space, he found himself staring out at the vastness of the stars, his mind lost in thought. Zara's words echoed in his mind, trust yourself. And trust the people who will stand by your side. He had never felt more uncertain in his life, but there was a part of him that felt strangely reassured by the idea of not being alone in this. His purpose, whatever it was, had shifted so dramatically in such a short time. He had been an archaeologist, a researcher, someone who dug through ancient ruins and unearthed forgotten histories. Now, it seemed, he was a key player in something that stretched far beyond his understanding. Earth was waiting for him, but what exactly would he find there? As the ship entered the Earth's atmosphere, Jack's stomach fluttered with a mix of excitement and anxiety. He had left this planet as a man of small significance, but he was returning as someone who was now part of a much larger story. The journey, the mural, the library of the stars, none of it made sense yet, but Jack knew that what lay ahead would force him to confront not just the past, but the future. The transport touched down with a gentle hum, and Jack stepped out onto familiar ground. The air was thicker here, more humid, and it felt like he had stepped back into his old life for just a moment before everything had changed. But as he took a deep breath, Jack knew that nothing would ever be the same again. He had made a promise to Zara, though she hadn't asked for one. He was going to find the answers. He wasn't sure where he would start, but he knew one thing: this was a journey that would lead him to uncover more than just human history. It would lead him to the truth about the galaxy itself. Jack made his way through the bustling spaceport, his thoughts racing. The voices of humans and aliens blended together in the background, a reminder of the vast intergalactic community that Earth had only recently become a part of. As he passed through the corridors, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was waiting for him. He didn't know where to begin, but he had learned that sometimes the first step is simply trusting that the right path will present itself. He had learned that in the vault, staring at the mural that connected humanity to the stars. The path forward was uncertain, but Jack had a feeling it would lead him to something much bigger than he had ever imagined. As he exited the spaceport and stepped into the city, Jack felt the weight of his mission settle into place. Earth was just the beginning. He had a role to play in a story that had been unfolding for centuries. But what was his place in it? What was he supposed to do now? The question swirled in his mind, but for the first time, Jack felt ready to face whatever came next. He walked forward, each step carrying him deeper into the unknown, determined to uncover the answers he had sought all his life. As Jack walked through the familiar streets of Earth, his mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. The city had not changed in the short time he had been gone, yet everything felt different. The people, the noise, the very air, everything seemed to pulse with a new energy, one that Jack couldn't quite place. He knew that he had been given a rare opportunity, a chance to uncover something vast, but it was also a burden. How could he possibly live up to the expectations placed on him, especially when he still didn't fully understand what those expectations were? His phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling him from his thoughts. He pulled it out, glancing at the message. It was from his old colleague, Dr. Harris. We need to talk. It's urgent. Meet me at the lab. Jack hesitated for a moment. He hadn't seen Dr. Harris in months. The man was a renowned archaeologist, someone Jack had always respected. But something in the urgency of the message unsettled him. What could be so important? Without giving it much more thought, Jack started walking towards the university. As he approached the lab, the familiar sight of the building made him feel a brief sense of comfort. It was the place where his journey had started, the place where he had first discovered his passion for ancient civilizations. But now, as he stepped inside, he couldn't shake the feeling that things would never be the same again. Dr. Harris was waiting for him in the lab, his usual calm demeanor replaced with an intensity that Jack had never seen before. "Jack," he said, his voice low. "You need to see this." He motioned to a table covered in ancient artifacts, their intricate designs a reminder of the vastness of history. Jack stepped closer, his eyes scanning the objects. At first glance, they looked like ordinary relics, but as he studied them more closely, he realized there was something different about them. "What are these?" Jack asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Harris leaned in, his face grim. "These are more than just artifacts. They're part of the same ancient civilization you uncovered in the alien vault. The same civilization that left that mural. These pieces, they were hidden for a reason. And I believe they hold the key to understanding everything." Jack's heart raced. This was it. The connection he had felt to the galaxy, to the universe, was beginning to make sense. But what did it mean? "How do you know this?" Jack asked, his voice shaking slightly. Dr. Harris turned to him, his eyes filled with a mixture of excitement and fear. "Because I found something else. A map. A map that leads to a place where the answers are waiting. But we're not the only ones searching for it. There are others out there, forces that want to keep this knowledge hidden. Forces that will stop at nothing to ensure it stays buried." Jack took a step back, his mind reeling. He had known that the mural and the vault were only the beginning, but this was bigger than anything he had imagined. A map? Forces trying to keep it hidden? The stakes were higher than he had ever realized. "What do we do now?" Jack asked, his voice steady despite the storm of thoughts racing through his head. Dr. Harris looked at him with a mixture of determination and fear. "We find the map. We follow it. And we uncover the truth." Jack nodded, his heart pounding. This was no longer just about discovery. It was about survival. About protecting the knowledge that could change the course of history. "Let's do it," Jack said, his voice firm. As they began to gather the artifacts, Jack couldn't help but feel the weight of the journey ahead. He had come back to Earth thinking he was just another archaeologist, but now he realized that he was a part of something much bigger. Something that could change everything. The questions, the uncertainty, they had all led him here. And now, there was no turning back. Jack and Dr. Harris spent the following days digging through the artifacts, analyzing each piece with a focus that bordered on obsession. The pieces were delicate, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of time, but the symbols etched into them were unmistakable. Jack could feel the weight of their significance with every touch, but the map, was still eluding them. They had found fragments, bits and pieces that hinted at a greater truth, but nothing that led them directly to the key they were searching for. As they pored over the relics late one evening, Jack's eyes flickered across an unfamiliar symbol that had been hidden beneath a layer of dust. It was small, barely visible, but something about it caught his attention. He reached for it, brushing away the debris, and as his fingers made contact, the symbol seemed to glow faintly. His breath caught in his throat. Dr. Harris looked up at him, his eyes sharp. "What is it?" Jack didn't answer immediately, his gaze locked on the symbol as it began to shift beneath his touch. It was like the artifact was alive, reacting to his presence. The more he focused, the clearer the design became, and then it hit him, this was the missing piece of the map. Jack quickly called Dr. Harris over. "Look," he said, excitement building in his voice. "This symbol, it's part of the map. It's telling us where to go." Dr. Harris stepped forward, his eyes widening as he examined the artifact. "You're right," he murmured, almost in disbelief. "This is it. This is the key." Together, they carefully placed the artifact into the terminal, a device they had set up to project holographic images and scans. The map sprang to life before them, unfolding in a swirl of light and color, revealing a path that led to a distant star system, one that Jack had never heard of. It was a place deep within uncharted space, beyond the reach of most known civilizations. "This is where it all begins," Jack said, his voice filled with awe. "We need to go there." Dr. Harris nodded, his expression serious. "This is a dangerous path, Jack. We don't know what's waiting for us out there. There are others who want this knowledge, and they will stop at nothing to keep it hidden. We've already seen the lengths they'll go to." Jack's heart raced. He had always been drawn to the unknown, but now it felt different. This wasn't just an academic pursuit anymore. This was about survival, about uncovering something that could change the entire course of human history. "I know the risks," Jack replied, his voice steady. "But we can't back down now. We have to follow the map. We have to see this through." Dr. Harris met his gaze, his expression hardening with determination. "Then we'll need to prepare. This won't be easy." The days that followed were a blur of preparations. Jack and Dr. Harris gathered everything they could, supplies, equipment, and anything else they might need for the journey ahead. They knew that the path would be dangerous, and they had to be ready for anything. As Jack looked out the window of their makeshift base, he couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was watching them, waiting for them to make their move. The quiet hum of the terminal was the only sound in the room, a constant reminder of the ticking clock. The time had come. They were ready to leave Earth behind and head into the unknown, following the map that held the answers to a question far bigger than anything they had ever imagined. Jack took a deep breath, his fingers brushing against the map once more. He had no idea what lay ahead, but he knew one thing for sure: there was no turning back now. The journey to the unknown star system was long and filled with uncertainty. As the ship moved further from Earth, Jack felt the familiar pull of adventure, but it was accompanied by a weight he had never known. The stakes were higher than ever before. He wasn't just uncovering ancient relics or forgotten knowledge, he was now part of a larger mission, one that had the potential to reshape the course of human history. But with that knowledge came fear. Fear of what they might find out there. Fear of the forces that were already trying to keep it hidden. Jack sat in the cockpit, staring out into the vastness of space. The stars looked so distant now, so unreachable, yet he was heading straight toward them. The map they had uncovered was their guide, but it was also a reminder of how little they truly understood. Zara's words echoed in his mind. "The galaxy is at a crossroads, Jack. You're here to help us navigate it." His fingers brushed the map once more, the holographic images flickering as if they were alive, pulsating with a rhythm that Jack couldn't quite grasp. Dr. Harris was behind him, monitoring the ship's systems, but Jack knew that the true challenge was what lay ahead, not the journey itself. "We're getting closer," Dr. Harris said, breaking the silence. Jack nodded, but his thoughts were elsewhere. "Do you think it's really out there?" he asked, his voice low. Dr. Harris didn't immediately answer. He leaned over Jack's shoulder, looking out into the same void of space. "I don't know," he replied honestly. "But we have to find out." The ship hummed steadily as it cut through the blackness, heading toward the uncharted system. Jack had heard stories of explorers who ventured into unknown space, only to disappear without a trace. But something about this journey felt different. It wasn't just the unknown that awaited them, it was the promise of understanding. Understanding the past, understanding their place in the universe, and perhaps most importantly, understanding what had been hidden for so long. As the hours stretched on, the ship began to approach the coordinates marked on the map. The star system they were heading toward was like no other Jack had seen. It wasn't just the color of the stars or the strange alignment of the planets, there was something about the way the system felt, something ancient, something almost sentient. Jack's heart raced as the ship made its final approach. They were close now, closer than ever before. The coordinates led them to a small planet on the edge of the system, a planet that hadn't been charted in any of the known galactic databases. The surface was barren, covered in craggy mountains and deep, dark valleys. "This is it," Jack said, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Harris turned to him, his eyes filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Are you ready?" Jack didn't answer immediately. He couldn't. He wasn't sure what lay beneath the planet's surface, what secrets it held, but he knew they were about to find out. "Let's do this," Jack finally said, his voice steady. They landed on the planet's surface, the ship's landing gear crunching against the rocky terrain. The air was thin, but breathable, and the temperature was colder than Earth's average. As they stepped out of the ship, Jack felt the weight of the planet's silence pressing down on him. There was no wind, no sound except for their footsteps. It felt like they were the first ones to ever set foot here. "Where do we start?" Dr. Harris asked, his voice barely breaking the stillness. Jack looked down at the map, now projected in midair, the holographic image of the planet glowing before them. The map had led them here, but it was up to them to uncover what lay beneath. Jack didn't have the answers, but he had a feeling that whatever they found would change everything. "We start here," Jack said, pointing to a location on the map, a spot deep within one of the planet's largest valleys. It was a place marked with an ancient symbol, one that looked eerily similar to the one they had found on the artifact back at the lab. As they made their way toward the symbol's location, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. It was the strangest sensation, like the planet itself was alive, aware of their presence. But there was no time to question it. They had a mission, and the answers they sought were closer than ever before.